sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh, let us all Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
I'm doing the Trump dance in there. I like the Trump dance. I like it. I'm doing the Trump dance. I was in Africa a couple of weeks ago, and I was trying to teach the kids in my Legacy Christian Academy how to do the Trump dance. I have video, but it's not synced up to YMCA, and there may be copyright issues on that. Well, welcome to the program, everybody. Nice to have you here. Jimmy is my name, Jimmy Lakey, streaming across America. Via Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, I think all sorts of platforms. YouTube, good morning. How are you? Glad to have the folks at the Media Equalizer page, the Red Wave America page. Welcome them to the broadcast. Thank you, Brian Maloney, for giving us access to that. The Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. If you're on the Rumble, make sure you give me a follow. I'd be very humbled if you give me a Rumble on a follow on a Rumble. Feel like Dr. Seuss there for just a moment. Give me a follow there on Rumble. It's just look for my name, Jimmy Lakey. You'll see that little logo there. You'll like it. It's very, very sexy. Where is it? Yeah, the one on the top of the screen. I got to put that up, don't I? Yeah. There it pops up right there. See that right? Right there. There it is. So, yeah, we got the logo up, House of Lakey. You should see that emblem on a lot of the things out there. But if you're on YouTube, also Jimmy Lakey, we got a new channel there. Good to have you here on the program. If you missed yesterday's, you can go back and listen to it. We go about 45 minutes to an hour to start off with, and we'll see where this thing develops. But glad to have you here. And don't forget, if you comment on any of the platforms, it does stream right here into the into the studio. I have it right here. You can't see it, but it's right there. It's a little streamer, and I read all the comments, and I'll share some of those on the. I will share some of those on the screen. For instance, watch this. I can put this on the screen. We figured this out. Joseph says, good morning, all. See, isn't that fancy? Yeah, that's very fancy. Thanks, Joseph, for jumping in. So whatever platform you're on, give us a comment, and maybe we will highlight that. Again, Jimmy Lakey, nice to have you here on the program. Steve Laffey, anybody remember him from my old radio show before I got the poop canned from the big broadcast studio, the big broadcast industry? Well, Steve Laffey's going to hop on this morning. I look forward to having him on the program. We'll talk about all sorts of fun and fodder with Steve Laffey. Also, I have another podcast we've been doing for a while called the Critical Mission Podcast. A new episode of that will give you a highlight of that. I will check in with some Africa video from me. So we got a lot of video, a lot of elements here on the program. So nice to have you here. Don't forget, comment at Facebook. It doesn't matter, Twitter. Wherever you send a comment, Rumble, we see them here in the studio, and I'd love to highlight some of those. All right, the breaking news of the morning is that evidently the Defense Secretary nomination, Pete Hegseth, is in some danger. Today is a critical day in President Trump's nomination of Pete Hegseth. Very critical day. And a lot of folks not sure what's going to happen. It all stems from some allegations that have turned up about some inappropriate behavior and relationships with women that maybe happened early on in life. And so there's just some of his background that's coming out. And that's one thing about being nominated for any of those positions. Anything that you did fodder for foolishness in the past, it pops up. So it's coming up. His mother evidently one time wrote him a note. Kind of an intervention note, said you need help. You've done some naughty things out there. And somehow that letter or that email surfaced, and his mom had to go on Fox and Friends this morning and explain that was explained that. But he's going to meet with Joni Ernst today, who's on the one of the committees that will get him through the committee, the confirmation hearing. And if that goes well, maybe they're going to pick up some ground, maybe not. There is story out there that Ron DeSantis has been talked to, and as a backup, President Trump's team has said, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, would you be interested in being the defense secretary if Pete Hegseth has to pull out of this? I'm guessing the next 24 to 48 hours, maybe the next 10, 12 hours, we will know, but maybe by this time this morning, whether the Pete Hegseth confirmation is going to go through. So that's kind of the breaking story of the day. Supposedly those who have back channeled or had conversation or leaking the information about Ron DeSantis, they have said that Ron DeSantis has said he is interested. Now, Joni Ernst of Iowa is another name that has been floated about there as a replacement. Oh, she's a senator, also a senator from Tennessee has been floated, but it seems like Ron DeSantis is the one that, according to sources, is going to be the replacement should Pete Hegseth not be able to make it across the finish line. So that's going to be an interesting development to watch today. And it's always sad. Pete's a nice guy. I've had him on the program a couple of times through the years. I think at least once. I think one time he had to bail, but I think I had him on once. Very nice guy. But you get these high-profile positions out there, and suddenly people start digging around. And as we know from Supreme Court confirmations, even if it's not even true, they'll still dig around and try to destroy you. But evidently there's some things in Pete's past that I'm sure he's not proud of. And they're coming back to haunt him. The chickens come home to roost, and we'll see. Keep Pete in your prayers. How about that? Keep Pete in your prayers, because even though we're watching it from the sideline and we're kind of it's food for fodder and speculation and palace intrigue about who may be the defense secretary, he's a real guy. He's got kids, he's got a wife, and they're all having to go through the scrutiny together. So keep him in your prayers. There's another strange breaking story. This is a daily update, so we might as well get us some news, right? Another strange breaking story that they don't have details of it, but let me pull it up on my screen. United Healthcare CEO this morning has been fatally shot in Midtown Manhattan. This is according to the reports breaking just about an hour or so ago. CEO United Healthcare was shot and killed in Midtown Manhattan Wednesday morning. Law enforcement officials are telling CNN. Brian Thompson was walking towards the New York Hilton in Midtown Manhattan. He was dressed in a suit and tie to attend a United Healthcare conference that was being held in the ballroom there. A gunman whose investigators tell CNN was waiting for some time before Thompson's arrival opened fire 20 feet, firing multiple times, striking Thompson. He's a 50-year-old executive, shot in the chest, was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital, where he was pronounced dead, according to the New York Police Department. Details on the circumstance. Again, this is a breaking news story. A lot of developments not out there yet. Not immediately available, but investigators say it appears to have been a targeted shooting. No arrests have been made, and investigation is ongoing. But again, the CEO of United Healthcare shot and killed in the streets of Manhattan just a couple of hours ago as he was walking down the street to go to the United Healthcare conference at the Hilton Hotel there. So we'll see if anything breaks on those are the two breaking stories that are out there that are circulating. Also, it's a big case in the front of the Supreme Court today. Have you heard this? I guess the state of Tennessee has said, hey, you can't give puberty blockers to children. You just can't do that. That's not good. If they're a consenting adult, they will if they're a consenting adult, they can choose that, but you can't give puberty blockers to children. And what's bizarre, and I think this is how mainstream America is out of touch with these whack jobs. Some people are arguing, no, you should be able to block your child's puberty. Now think of that. If you're an 8-year-old and you're a few years away from the old puberty, and your parents think you act one way, and maybe you would be more comfortable in a boy's body or a girl's body, and they said, do you want to go through puberty? You don't know what that means. You don't know what that, you have no clue. Like, I think it'd be good for you to maybe we'll transition you, and you just it's really bizarre that people think that it's okay. But my 8-year-old, my 9-year-old, my 10-year-old wanted that. Well, your 9-year-old didn't know that they wanted that. It's nobody at that age knows that what puberty means, what the what's going to be happening. Nobody knows that. That's just kind of a mystery thing that happens to us as a kid heading into our teenage years, and boom, it's there. And you can't say at 6, no, I don't ever want to go through that. I'm never going to go through. You don't know that. And I think it's child abuse and mental illness on the part of a parent that anybody that subjugates your child to that. But the Supreme Court's going to hear the case on it. And they're going to hear the case on whether or not whether it's legal for a state to ban that type of behavior. So we shall see. All right, don't forget, across all platforms, make your comments. I'd love to hear from you. All the platforms, even if they're love messages, hate messages, comments on the news. Again, 3 breaking stories this morning. Supreme Court's hearing a case on sex reassignment care, whether a state should be able to ban it. Is there anybody out there on any of the platforms that can tell me why you think it should be legal for a parent to block your child from going through puberty just because they decide to? It's the child's body, the parent's choice. Is that what we got here? I mean, if a child after puberty thinks it sucks or thinks that they don't like the, let's say if they're if they don't like their twigs and berries and they don't want the twigs and berries anymore, well, let the child become an adult and decide. But don't, as a parent, say, hey, those twigs and that twig and berries don't look good on you. We're going to block puberty. They're never going to develop. You're never going to know what they really could be intended for as an adult. And we'll just stop all that. Tell me that's not child abuse, somebody. Tell me that's not sick. Tell me that's not wrong. And there's a couple of things that the crazy left likes to do out there. And it always has to do with sacrificing a child, sacrificing a child at the abortion clinic, sacrificing a child on the operating table. I mean, it's really sick and wrong. And if anybody can tell me that it's not, feel free to do so. But again, if you want to be 19, 20, you go through puberty and you decide you don't like the twigs and berry, you decide when you go to the men's room, the ladies' room, you want to be a pointer, not a sitter, or a sitter, not a pointer. Man, I don't care. That ain't my business. It ain't my business at all. But, it's sick and wrong. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's not going to decide on it from a transgender right or wrong. They're going to decide, is it constitutional? Does a child have constitutional right? And does a state have the constitutional right to do that. So we shall see on that one. All right, I want to remind you, because I can, and it's my program, Jimmy Lakey here. There's a couple of ways to get involved on this one, and I hope you shall. I hit the wrong one. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed here. If you'd like to sponsor, we're going to grow an audience every day, starting at 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. So wherever you're at, if you're a business owner, I'd like to promote your business, and I can do that. You just send me an email, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com, send me an email there. You can also subscribe. There's a paid subscription. Now, this is free, obviously. I ain't charging you, although while you're sitting in front of your computer right now, you don't know it. I got little short people coming in, grabbing your wallet. No, that's not happening. Some of you looked around right there. You're like, what? What the hell's going on? Some of you looked around. That's not happening. We don't have the short people on patrol grabbing your wallet, but you can subscribe to portions of this program. I'll tell you what I recorded yesterday. Some great interviews and conversation yesterday with a couple of people. We talked energy. We talked the Democrats acting like they're elitist, and that's why they lost this last election. A lot of great interviews are up and behind a paywall. You can sample them for a couple of minutes, but if you want to hear the whole thing, they're going to be behind a paywall. You say, well, I get you free. Well, yeah, you do, but only for an hour. There's more stuff out there, and it's $9.95 a month. Somebody posted on Facebook, that's too rich for my blood. I get it. Maybe Bidenomics doesn't let you do $9.95 a month. I understand. So keep on the free stuff, but any of you who can support the mission of the House of Lakey and to help us continue to get the word out about God blessing America, please feel free to help us out there. And again, it's patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Let me pop up a couple more comments. Some of you jumping in on this topic of the Supreme Court battle. Somebody tell me it's not sick and wrong for a parent to say, hey, you're 8 years old. You don't deserve to go through puberty. I don't think you're going to enjoy puberty. I don't think you're going to enjoy learning about your feelings and sexuality. You're not going to enjoy that. Let's just block it. I think it's sick and wrong. Here's a message. John Coles says this. He says, I think these sexual issues shouldn't be allowed until at least 18 years of age. Hell, if we don't even let people think legally until 21, drink legally. Yeah, that's true. The schools can't even give an aspirin, like a Tylenol or an ibuprofen, to a kid unless they have all sorts of until they have all sorts of permission slips signed. Mike jumps in. He says, is anybody streaming Lakey on X? Mike, X has been a problem. I will fix X today, okay? X has been a problem. That's a platform that just as I go live, I get the notification. We got to change a setting on X. I'll get that done today, Mike. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Yep, Mike. Yeah, Joseph says not seeing it on X yet. You're right. You're not seeing it on X yet, but I will get to it and I'll fix that today. Back to the transitioning of children, blocking. By the way, if you're a parent out there watching me, I mean this. You need to figure something out with your own heart if you're trying to block your child from going through puberty because you think that they don't deserve to go through puberty or they're not going to enjoy it. It's just sick. It really is. Joseph also says this sick and wrong modern day Baal worship. That's a lost reference to you. Some of you probably ought to get your Bible out and check that out because it really is very much sick and wrong. All right, a couple of stories out there. We're glad to have you here. And again, thanks for listening. Everywhere you comment, when you comment on the platforms, we always get the messages here. And as you can see, we can pop the good ones up, even the bad ones. We'll pop dumb ones up. If you say something dumb, somebody, then I'll post it up on the platform. I will do that. All right, the three news stories we're following, they could break during this live broadcast on this. Oh, by the way, December the 4th, my son's birthday. I texted him last night before I headed off to bed. I said, this is the last time I get to wish you happy birthday as a teenager. Yeah, my son, everybody knows my son, River, named a charity organization after him. It's a promise I made to him, River's Promise. He turns 20 today. Yeah, that's hard to believe. I got a 20-year-old. I don't have a teenager in the house. Well, he doesn't live in the house. He lives at college most of the time. But yeah, happy birthday to my kiddo. He's probably not watching. He's probably in class, studying and being a very good student because that's how he is. He's probably wishing he was football season wasn't over. What he's probably wishing. Anyway, happy birthday to my kid. He's 20. I can't. That's tough to believe for me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be here. Again, follow us. on the Patreon page. It's a paid subscription there. This is free, but Patreon has some great interviews, and you got to go there, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. And if you're an business owner, or maybe you're just somebody who wants to see Lakey continue to, when I got canned off the radio program, everybody said, we want to keep hearing you. Well, this is the way you do it. I do some free stuff, and we'll do some paid stuff, and we'll get better and better. And right now on the streams we're on, we have potential to have about 200,000 eyeballs every day with just this live feed. Thank you, Red Wave America, for joining us. Media Equalizer is spreading there. Glad to be on those pages, my pages. We'll get the X fixed. I promise you we'll get the Twitter fix. I'll call Elon personally and see if he can work on that. All right, if you followed my radio show for many years, you know that I had one of my good friends joined us every Wednesday morning, and it's kind of fun this week. Yesterday, I had Laura Carno pop in. We're getting the band back together a little bit. Since when I got canned, they got canned also from the radio program. Would you please welcome? He ran for president. Maybe you saw him on the campaign trail. He's been the mayor of Cranston, and he's also written a book, ran for U.S. Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend here in the House of Lakey, he joins us, Mr. Steve Laffey. Steve, good morning, sir. How are you?
Jimmy, it's great. This is wonderful. We can say whatever we want.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want, and there's no tyrants or lords down the hallway yelling at us, so we can make our own fun here. It's going to be good.
So great to see you doing this. Great to have you back from Rwanda, and happy birthday to your son.
Yeah, 20 years old. You've still got a couple of teenagers, I think. I'm out of teenagers now.
2 teenagers left. One's 21, just turned 21, will graduate. 19 will graduate, and 16-year-old Steven's off to grad school.
Wow!
So in January.
I always love hearing that. 16-year-old Stephen Laffey Jr. off to grad school. 16. Beautiful. Steve, let's dive into this thing. You and I talked the day after the election. Trump won. You predicted it. I thought he'd win as well. We got Trump in, and I haven't talked since because that Friday they showed me the door. Give me your thoughts. I thought of you when I heard that they're going to have Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy doing a Department of Government kind of an intervention in trimming the size of government. Give me some of your thoughts here.
Well, by the way, I think Vivek is obviously out of his mind, but keeping a smile on his face. He's not ahead of some department. That's just the way he is. But in Musk's case, he's probably happy as a clam. He can't be part of the government. He's got a car company and some SpaceX stuff to run, if he runs them at all, and he's got some kids, to take care of. But I think they're approaching it in vastly the wrong direction. And let me tell you why. The op-ed that I sent over to you a little bit, or what they've written about what they want to do, will be totally fine in many respects. Well, they'll look at executive orders. They're looking at Supreme Court decisions. The real way to change, there are 2 things that they're missing. The real way to change things in Washington would be, 1, through legislation. I pray that Donald Trump is getting with the leaders of the Senate and the House, and at least on the 20th, if he makes an address in the morning, introduce legislation through the House of whatever can get passed. In other words, I don't know what it is, but you only got 90 days to make any real impact. They write the first 100 days of a presidency. I know this from being a little old mayor. And if they're not ready to pass legislation that will stick, it may be legislation about changing federal pensions to 401k plans for people who are not vested yet. I know that's not everything, but something along the lines that everybody would vote on and pass. If they don't do that, they're going to be looking out to July, and the haphazard measures of which Donald Trump takes to run things will then be evident, and then things will slow and grind to a halt. The second thing, Jimmy, is to do exactly what I've done in the public sector. For example, there was a new head of the Department of Energy. He himself does not, like me, believe in climate change at all. Good for him. He's an energy guy. He knows energy. He's run things. Wonderful. What he has to do there to get the public on his side, rather than just complaining of this or that, he has to put a padlock on the door one day, not let anybody in, videotape people not working all day long in that building before he puts the padlock on, and then let people know that a month later, nothing has changed, even though the thousands of employees haven't shown up for work. He doesn't need them. And except for the part about the nuclear stuff that the Department of Energy runs, and he's transferring it back to the military, he's going to have a plan to close the department and go back to the private sector within 90 days. Same thing in the Department of Education. The new head, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation head, McMahon, the female McMahon, the male would not be able to do anything, but she's going to have a plan to end the whole thing. And if they don't have plans like this, if they're just in there like the first Trump administration, complaining, trying to do things, they won't cut government. And I'll give you an example. Here's one that's an easy one. The Federal Reserve of the United States of America employs 23,000 people. Now, I know no one believes this is true, but it's true, because you would think, how many people? You see the one guy on TV who runs it. You hear from some other people, there's like 17 voters. Where would 23,000 people come from? I'm not talking. So how can we not get it down to 2,300? I would say 23, but I'm being hyperbole. How could we not have major cuts within that department? They don't put out any real good information. They've been wrong about inflation. You could get a computer to replace them all. But I could go through division by division like this, Jimmy. And if you don't put a padlock on offices and say we couldn't fire Jimmy, Joni, and whatever, these 300 people due to some federal law, a judge that was appointed by Biden stopped into, but we're just putting a padlock on it. They don't need to show up. We just want to show you that 3 months from now, nothing changed at these three departments. We could do a lot more than that, right? But I'm just saying that would get the public on your side, because they'll realize in my movie, Fixing America, one of the greatest scenes, if people watch the movie, you can still watch it, but one of the greatest scenes I always remember, Jimmy, is a guy who actually works in Washington for the federal government. And we ask him, what should we do first? And he puts his hand up and he points to all the buildings and says, start there. And he tells us, it doesn't make the movie, that almost nobody's working. Like literally nobody's working in these buildings. So trying to get them to come back to work physically, whatever, they don't do anything. So if they can do stuff like that, in addition to what they're saying they're going to do, we will be on our way. How about, first of all, Trump has not announced this. How about a firing freeze for 4 years? Nobody can be hired at not the Department of Agriculture, not the Human Resource, nothing. No hiring for 4 years. That would do something. I need to see stuff like that for them to be successful, in addition to what the DOGE people, the Doge people, want to do.
Yeah, they set it originally at like a July 4th deadline. And I'm like, you're right, though. The first 100 days, you got to get in there and start kicking butt, taking names, and hit the ground running. And hopefully they will do that. We shall see. I would like to hear somebody just talk about going back to pre-COVID spending levels. That's been forgotten, too. We've never gone back there. There's going to save us a few billion. Speaking of the transition, Steve Laffey, my guest, many of you remember him from the broadcast radio. I was thinking, before I go to new topics, Steve, they ought to get the people that run modern day radio running the government. Man, they run it on a dime. They've got big towers with 2 people left in them. So they ought to run federal government, the people that run broadcast radio, because they've really trimmed down. Let's go, Steve. Let's go to Pete Hegseth. The defense secretary seems to be under some controversy this morning. Some past things that have happened in his life. Supposedly, Ron DeSantis has been talked to as a backup if Pete has to pull out of there. Your thoughts on Pete Hegseth as the potential defense secretary?
Well, listen, thank him for his service, and he's a very smart man. The Department of Defense, I mean, if he had announced, I'm running the Department of Defense and I'm bringing along 4 people that ran divisions of General Electric, United Health, giant corporations, Home Depot, who actually know how to run giant corporations and manage 100,000 people, whatever it is, right? That would be great. He seems to have no indication of doing that. Second, he has massive personal problems. So the longer this goes on, it shows you again that Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, is a haphazard person. He just is going to do whatever sticks. He doesn't care about these people. He doesn't care whether Peter Hegseth gets fired at Fox News and things are exposed that wouldn't have been exposed and he never works again. That's probably not happening to him because we live in a country where no one really cares in the private sector. But what I'm saying to Ron DeSantis is this: stay away. Everybody who associates himself with Donald Trump ends up living a terrible life. They either go to jail Steve Bannon. We could go on about the people like Rudy Giuliani go bankrupt. He had a very nice life in 2012. The hero of 2001, the former mayor, the man who knew how to run things, who brought New York back. There's a list of people. My friend Herman Cain died. He died. He went to a rally without the Chinese viruses going around. He had heart problems. He died tragically. He didn't need to die, but he hung around with Donald Trump and he died. So to the former governor, here's what you need to do. We advised him before he announced. He didn't listen. He did his whole tour. He never listened. He could be president in 2028 because all things are going to go backwards for the vice president, J.D. Vance. He needs to stay away, stay governor, get out in 2 years, run for president, and never have anything to do with Donald Trump. For example, he has to appoint a new U.S. senator. It cannot be Lara Trump. He has to say to himself, listen, I'm going to take the long road. I am not going to do this. I'm going to appoint someone who's very conservative to be the U.S. senator. I'm going to finish out my term as one of the most efficient, well-run states in the history of America. And I'm going to run for president the day after on that. There are many people who failed for president and ran again, right? We can talk about Nixon. We could, whatever. He could do that. And he should do that. And he needs to stay totally away from Donald Trump because it really, truly is, for the most part, Trump is appointing the B team to run things. But there are some things that probably will happen that are good, as we've always said.
Steve Laffey, SteveLaffey.com. One more quick topic. Big controversy this week is that Hunter Biden gets a pardon from his daddy. I was not shocked that he got the pardon, perhaps maybe on the timing of it. Give me a couple of minutes left. Give me your thoughts on the Joe Biden pardoning old Hunter.
Well, I am a little bit surprised in a sense that he made unequivocal statements that it would never happen, right? And Joe Biden knows that none of this was political. His son, Hunter Biden, is a walking, talking disaster and should have brought him down. But he's probably going to pardon himself if he can, even though presidents may not be able to do that. He's going to pardon some other things that go around, maybe even his brother. So this just shows one thing, that the Democrats already knew, and America now knows. Joe Biden is a self-serving, complete clown who never accomplished anything. And in his life in public surface was just about always wrong. He was wrong about foreign policy from the day he got in. He was wrong about Clarence Thomas. We can go on a litany of things in the U.S. Senate and Congress. And as president, he presided over the worst foreign policy seen since Jimmy Carter. It is the worst situation, whether or not, to go backwards for 1 second, President Trump talked about getting out of Afghanistan. And while I thought we shouldn't have got in back in the day, when we got in, I said we should stay forever. I think Trump would have stayed forever. That base would be very useful in Syria today, right? So
very nice to have
a base. I'm not talking about, and for young people who are females, especially, to go on and do maybe what we did in South Korea, although looks like they were backtracking yesterday, where people 50 years from now could live free and the whole area may be living free. Could happen. Not going to happen now. But he got out in a disastrous way. His ideas about Ukraine, whether you go in or don't go in, or help or don't help, you always try to win. He tried to keep it a stalemate. So Joe Biden is a classless, bad actor, and he can rot in hell for all I care. I really mean this. Like, he is a rotten person to the core. He's selfish. He's more selfish than the former Supreme Court woman who didn't get out when she could have, right? And died, thankfully giving Republicans and Trump another position. He's worse than that. He should have gotten out a couple of years ago as president, and never appointed who he appointed, and the Democrats would actually have won. He destroyed it single-handedly, and he's a terrible, terrible public servant.
Steve Laffey, it's a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for jumping in here. I appreciate you. Welcome to the new platform. SteveLaffey.com is his website, SteveLaffey.com. Let's see, some people are commenting on that. Steve, I always love to have Steve on the program because he's never voted for Trump. Steve's never voted for Donald Trump. you kind of got the thought here. Let's see. We got a couple of comments coming in on some of the topics. I'm going to show you some other stuff here. Donna jumps in and she says, hey, we should padlock the 3-letter agencies. Steve's talking about padlocks. You got to do that. Craig comes in and says, happy birthday to my son. Happy birthday. My son turns 20. I no longer have a teenager in the house. Let's see what else. We got some other great comments coming in regarding the advice to avoid Donald Trump. Joseph says, not sure I would agree with you on this one, Steve. MAGA would not take kindly to avoiding Trump. So anyway, the rumor on the street is that Ron DeSantis could be replacing Pete Hegseth. Now, that is something that I will switch topics here, but I am baffled by this, that there's a lot of the stuff in the past that is coming up about Pete that is kind of what's blocking the nomination. And I've heard two things. One of two things happened. One of two things happened is that Pete, they knew it and they didn't care, and the Trump administration didn't do the transition team didn't do the pre-check on this one. Or I've heard that maybe they feel like kind of they got a little duped that they weren't told about this, and in advance that Pete didn't flag himself and say, hey, well, there's some things in my past that may pop up. So either way, Pete's getting a tarnished reputation that had he not been nominated for this, probably would have not had that tarnished reputation, at least out there in public. All right, good to have you here on the show. If you want to jump into chat, the new chat room, remember on the old show, you used to talk about the chat room all the time. Well, the chat room is open, and that's on any platform we're on. Jimmy Lakey here. You can watch us on Media Equalizer at Facebook, Red Wave America at Facebook, Jimmy Lakey fan page at Facebook. For those of you looking for the X, I promise you to make priority to get the X stream fixed today. Just got to make a change on the setting, and we'll be streaming on X. We're on Rumble, though. Hello, Rumble. YouTube as well, and I appreciate you, all of you. So if you send a comment in, I do get those, and you can do that. All right, I talked about my charity, and I mentioned my son's birthday. By the way, yesterday was Giving Tuesday. Did you follow that? It was Giving Tuesday, and I saw this stat I thought was interesting, and it's 38% of people said they never heard of Giving Tuesday. In Colorado, I get mixed up on Giving Tuesday versus Colorado Gives Day. Those are two different days. If you're listening out of state, we have another Giving Day, and that's in the state of Colorado. But this is an interesting one. In a poll, 36% of people say they've heard of Giving Tuesday. 15% of people say they participated. 15% claim they dropped more money on Giving Tuesday than on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Now, that would be interesting. If you want to know if your priorities in life, did you spend more on Black Friday and Cyber Monday than you did on Giving Tuesday? That's a great comparison. In the same poll, 23% of people say they haven't given any money to a charity in the past year. That's a stunning number. I know Bidenomics, but 33% of Americans say they have not given any money to any charity in the past year, and they listed a variety of reasons. 22% say they have been able to part with a small amount of up to $100. 29% have donated between $100 and $1,000, and 15% say they've given more than $1,000. And here's another one: the people that actually view themselves as greedy. 10% of people say they admit they donate just for the tax deduction, which I don't mind. Donate to my charity for the tax deduction. If you need a tax deduction, I'm your write-off, baby. Riverspromise.org. It's on the screen. I'm on there. But yeah, there's a group of people. I find this in the stat. There's people who actually say they feel like they're greedy. They declare, I'm just greedy. I don't give because I'm greedy. That's kind of sick and kind of wrong. Don't feel that way about yourself. All right, let me play a video. This is talking about my charity. We'll come back with some news stories here and more comments. If you want to jump in, feel free. The chat room is open on all the platforms, and it comes right here to the studio. Many of you know I go to Africa on a regular basis, and since I go to, by the way, give me your opinions. Pete Hegseth, do you think Ron DeSantis is the right choice here? Do you think that Ron DeSantis, if Pete has to drop out, do you think Ron DeSantis is going to be is he the best replacement from what you're hearing about Pete Hegseth? I've got friends that from the get-go said, I like him on television. I don't like him as defense secretary, talking about Pete Hegseth. Give me your thoughts on that one. And also another breaking news story that we're following is is the United CEO Healthcare. The United Healthcare CEO was killed. The killer is on the loose in New York City. The guy was shot in the streets. They think it was a targeted assassination of this 50-year-old CEO. And I'm sure there's cameras. I'm trying to find out. I'm looking up at my monitor above me, and they're still got crime tape, and the New York City police department's there. But the CEO of United Healthcare targeted on the streets, and that's very sad. Also, the Supreme Court. A lot of you are sounding off on us about the Supreme Court and the puberty blockers, and the case before the Supreme Court as to whether it's constitutional that a state can make it illegal for a child to begin the transitioning process and have puberty blockers and things like that. So the Supreme Court is going to hear that case today. A lot of you were chatting on that, and I will read some of that information here for just a moment. But in the meantime, can I show you a video? This is, you hear me talk about my school, Legacy Christian Academy in Rwanda. When I was there just a couple of weeks ago, we got a real staff, a real building, and we're still got to build the rest of the complex, but we've got the one big building. There's a lot of dirt around because we haven't finished construction. But this is our teaching staff for Rivers Promise Legacy Christian Academy. I want you to see them, and just a little quick video. They introduce themselves. You'll hear they're very international. Some of them they all speak English, but they're all broken kind of. The accent's definitely there. But this is the teaching staff introducing themselves for Legacy Christian Academy. Some of you are donors to the charity, and these are the staff that are doing it for you. Here we go. Jimmy Lakey at Rivers Promise Legacy Christian Academy here in Rwanda, and we have some great teachers at our school. I want you to meet some of them, so let's meet our staff.
Hello, I'm Jonas. I'm Rwandan. I'm Rivers Promise Field Director. I feel comfortable with Rivers Promise. I love it. I love the Rivers Promise Legacy Christian Academy, the teachers. I thank you so much, donors, Bud and Jimmy. God bless you all.
Hello, I am Jore. I am Ugandan. I am River from Legacy Christian Academy Director. Thank you very much. I love Legacy Academy.
Hello, I'm called Jasper Ochen. I'm a teacher at Rivers Promise Legacy Academy. I'm very proud to be here, and I would like to give great thanks to the Almighty God. I am a teacher of science and elementary technology and English as a language. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Belize. I'm Rivers Promise Legacy Academy teacher. I am Rwandan. I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm so blessed to be a teacher in Legacy Academy. God bless you. Thank you so very much.
Hi, I'm Emery. I'm Burundian. I'm Rivers Promise Legacy Christian Academy teacher. I teach French. I'm so glad to meet with Jimmy. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Betty. I'm Rwandan. I'm Rivers Promise Legacy Christian Academy teacher. Thank you and be blessed.
Hello, I am Haggai. I am Ugandan. I am River Promise Legacy Christian Academy. I am a teacher of English. I am so happy to meet my directors and to work in this school. Thank you so much.
Hello, I am Amai Stephen, teacher of River Legacy Promise Christian Academy. I am a Uganda. I'm happy to be in this school. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Emelance. I'm Ugandan. I'm Rivers Promise Legacy Academy Christian. I'm assistant teacher. Thank you.
There's the first building. We got some more construction to do there. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Glad to have. If you wanted to learn more about my charity, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. And really, I show some of those videos, not just because I want you to see the videos, but it gives me a chance to sneeze and blow my nose. That's another thing. I got another video we filmed yesterday. You'll see that in a minute. And it's from my other podcast, their Critical Mission. We'll show you that here in just a moment. Speaking of Africa, I think I can speak to this quite well. Anybody see Joe Biden show up yesterday in Africa? He pardons his son, heads off to Angola, which is in West Africa, and he's there he gives him a billion or so bucks, man, $1 billion. Now, the people of North Carolina, they don't get $1 billion. They got $750 if they behaved themselves, kept their nose clean, and they applied. And some people are still getting nothing from North Carolina from that hurricane that hit them, and blast Hurricane Helene. But Joe Biden flies his demented self out to Angola, and he decides he's got $1 billion that he pulled out of somebody's carcass, and he's just handing it over to West Africa. And some of the statements he said, but if you watch some of the video, it's really frightening how demented and frail this guy is. He ain't doing good, my friends. He's just not doing good. But he, again, the coward that he is, the sick man that Joe Biden is, and I think the pardoning of his son at the timing and the whole lies that he told throughout the thing, I will never pardon him. And then he leaves town and leaves old Corinne Jean-Pierre, who's already not the brightest bulb in the box, leaves her out there to try to defend his honor. I mean, a cowardly man he is. I mean, he didn't even leave Jill Biden behind here to defend his. I mean, he just took off. The guy took off, makes one of the most controversial decisions regarding the power of the presidency, the pardoning of his own son. By the way, his son his son admitted guilt. His son said he did it. His son said he was naughty in some of these things. Now you say, well, some of the other things he wasn't found guilty. Well, some of the other things, they let the statute of limitations run out. Now, the Justice Department, have you heard this? The special prosecutor Weissman has gone to the judge and said, I'm not dropping the indictment. We are not changing anything. We're going to keep it going. So there's going to be a battle, but it seems like so far the legal scholars say, yeah, he has the right to do it. Whether you like it or not, he has the right to do that. But the guy heads off to Angola and finds $1 billion in his butt and decides to give it to the West African nation of Angola. Anybody think it's really going to accomplish in Angola what you think it's going to accomplish? Anybody think it's going to really make the difference that they say it's going to make? Anybody have any thought that maybe when you give to a country like Angola or any third world country, that just maybe it goes to the oligarchs over there? There's a great comment by Jim. Bring that up on the screen if we can. Jim says, what companies are based in West Africa and which members of the Biden family are going to be on the boards of these companies? This is a crime family, my friends. Hunter Biden, Joe's brother, the whole group's a crime family, and I think that's a great question. And I want to know where's Congress, and how do these presidents all of a sudden pull out of their butts billions of dollars that they just start passing out? Anybody notice that the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, Joe Biden's found millions and millions more to give to Ukraine? Oh, we found another few million under the mattress there. I mean, what do they do? Go sell Hunter Biden's cocaine on the streets and come up with some money to pass out to these third world countries? I think Joe Biden said something. I don't have the audio of it because his voice makes me nauseous. It's all his voice. Listening to him talk and slur his words is almost like listening to these ladies here. I just can't do it. I just, there's no point in putting myself through that misery. So, but he pulls money out of his butt and gives $1 bazillion to Angola because they're going to build a train. He's going to build a train. And for some reason, I think he used the word infrastructure disparity. And so it's our job to build the roads and the infrastructure and a train system in Angola. Anybody? He made this speech, and the whole time I'm listening to it going, why is that our duty? Why is that our duty to build infrastructure for Angola? It just makes absolutely no sense that it makes absolutely no sense. It was a dump. And why to go to Angola? It just kind of disappeared. Something's fishy about going to Angola. Maybe that's the only place that he thinks he can have some legacy. I don't know. Donna says this. I said they're selling the Hunter's cocaine, and she says maybe they're selling Hunter's art. Yeah, maybe that's where they got the $1 billion pulled out of Joe's butt to give to Angola, is that they do that. If you saw it, it really is disgusting. And again, I run a charity in Africa. I understand Africa, and I understand what foreign aid does, and I understand what it does. And I'm probably well-versed to speak to this, giving that money to Angola. And just at the wrong random time, too. That's just also, that's also a very big, it's just bizarre to me. Here's a great question by Mike in the chat room. What investment does China have in Angola? Believe me, China's got investments all over Africa. There's a lot of African countries that I know that are trying their best to decouple themselves from China. For instance, Rwanda, where I go, Rwanda, there are Colorado companies, architect companies, construction companies ready to help rebuild the infrastructure and modernize Kigali, the capital city. But a lot of those contracts, they got underbid. They got underbid by the Chinese, and so then these governments ended up in partnership with China, and a lot of them want to decouple. They think they become too dependent on China. So I guarantee you there's a lot of Chinese connection in Angola. It's, by the way, at one time we were first building a school, or making Trust in the Village. We were building our school, and we went out to this buy some blankets, and we were going to negotiate in the market for some blankets because people had no blankets, they had no shelter, no blankets, and the kids were dying from exposure. So we're buying hundreds of blankets, and my Rwandan guys go into this market. I want to speak to the manager. They're negotiating and trying to get. I want to speak to the manager, and he's expecting a Rwandan to come out, an African to come out, and out of the back, from the back closet, comes a small Chinese guy. And my guy was shocked that the Chinese guy was the manager of this African market. And my guy hugs him and says, "I love China. I love China. I need a deal." And no joke. And we got a deal. We had to go out to a freight yard where they had these shipping containers to get enough blankets. We loaded down. And I don't know what happened. I don't understand. I looked the other way. We pulled in. They honked the horn. They opened the gate. There's a shipping container there. The guys opening the gate bang on the shipping container, and as they bang on the shipping container, it opens from the inside, and there's like 4 Chinese guys that load up the blankets. I don't know if they're living in the sleeping. I didn't ask questions, but yeah, there's definitely some Chinese connection there. So it is a great conversation to have. Angola, it's bizarre, and I think there's more to that story than what we know. Besides him just being a cowardly, defunct old man and heading off to hide because he pardoned his son in probably one of the most controversial and radical issuance of presidential power and executive authority, maybe in the history of our country. You got the pardon of Nixon, but that wasn't family. That was Ford saying, "Hey, we got to just move on and let's put this behind us." This is not the country moving on. This is a president pardoning his son, for the things that he was still facing punishment for and facing sentencing, had said he did them. And Joe Biden says, "No, that was political." Well, your son said he did them. All right, let's see. Donna says President Mumbles. She calls him President Mumbles. Evidently, hello, Rumble. We just started a Rumble page like 2 days ago. We're brand new on Rumble. Spread the word out there on the Rumble. Thanks for watching the Rumble. I appreciate you doing that as well. Keep sharing, if you will. We're here live, and you can watch this throughout the day. I have another. Let me one more time remind you how this one's working. I have a. If you want to sponsor this, you're a business owner, we've got potential throughout the day. Everybody doesn't watch it one time. Some people are working right now. Some people watch this in the afternoon. If you can sponsor by sending me an email as a business owner, or maybe just a family wants to sponsor, we'll work out a package for you. info@jimmylakey.com. And also the rest of you subscribe. We have some great interviews that you don't hear here. And the subscription is Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey, Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. So make sure you do that. All right, I have another podcast. It's free. And it's called the Critical Mission Podcast. I don't know if you watched it, but it's on YouTube. It's live now. It's on all the places you can listen to podcasts. You can watch it. This is one we did. This is one we did with a lady named Sabrina Jankowski. She's a teacher, an elementary school teacher, a middle school teacher here in Colorado. And the Critical Mission Podcast is all about this. The 2 most important days of a person's life: the day they're born, the day they figure out why. And I figured out my why, taking care of orphans and widows in Africa. And she figured out her why. But the way she figured out her why is because she went into her son's bedroom one morning and he was dead. She tells the story on the most recent. It's up on all the platforms now. Critical Mission Podcast. Let me play a snippet of her talking about her son the day before he died.
Yes, my son Joseph Jankowski, 24 years old, has passed away from fentanyl. He did not know that what he was buying was fentanyl. When Joey turned 24, we all have that birthday week anymore. It's not just like one day. And towards the later part of the week, he trusted somebody that he had known from elementary who kept hitting him up on Snapchat saying, Joey, buy from me, buy from me. And this kid had also solicited many other friends of his for quite some time. And I think he just had a weak moment because it was his birthday week. And why not party, right? So in the long run, the kid hit Joey up again. Joey bought from him. I believe that on July 11th, Joey bought from him that evening in a parking lot and came home. Him and I had a great birthday dinner together and said goodnight. He told me how much he loved me and appreciated everything I had done for him. And it was after I walked out of his bedroom saying goodnight for the last time that I ever saw him alive again.
In that podcast that we do, and it's up live. It's on all those. Look up the Critical Mission. My mission is critical.com. That's a free interview, and that's up at. It's a fascinating. She started a thing called the Fentanyl Awareness Care Team. If you ever see, I have a purple bracelet. That's what that is. She's raising awareness because a lot of kids get these things at the campuses. They think they're getting an Adderall or something like that to focus, and they don't realize that this stuff is fake. It's come across the border from Mexico, supplied by China. Speaking of the Chinese, and they get it over here, and people die. It's the number one cause of death among large demographics here in America now, and it's basically chemical warfare being waged on us by the Chinese. And yet we've kept our border open under old demented Joe and making sure that these cartels can still get a lot of this crap in here. And there's never been hell to pay. There's going to be hell to pay soon, I hope. And we don't talk politics on the Critical Mission podcast. You go see that one. But we do talk about the border, and she knows that this is chemical warfare, and her son died from chemical warfare waged on us by China. That's it with the Critical Mission podcast. All right, we're going to run short on time here. We're going to wrap this thing up real quick. But a couple more comments here. Jim says China has a clause in every country. When we were in Cozumel a couple of years back, we passed a small sewing shop where they were removing the Made in China tags and replacing it with Made in Mexico logos on souvenir T-shirts. Yeah, you're right. China does have its claws in everything, and they have our claw. They're waging chemical warfare. That's what this whole fentanyl thing is. And be careful. A lot of people say they say fentanyl overdose. No one really overdoses on fentanyl. Nobody's going to buy fentanyl. They're buying an Adderall. They're buying a cocaine. They're buying some kind of pill, a drug, maybe even an ibuprofen. They're buying them, and you can buy the molds to make these. We talked about that on the podcast. You buy them on Amazon. They make them. They fake them. They sell them. Somebody hands them to you, and you think you're taking something legit, and you're not, and it's not very good at all. All right, there's a couple of interviews up on my on the paid portion, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Going to have some more interviews going up there today, so make sure you tune in. And I appreciate you being here. We'll be back live here on all the platforms. Share this out there. If you're on the Rumble, share it out to your friends and say, hey, this is a new thing that goes live every week. You can subscribe to the Lakey Unleashed podcast at patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. That's content that you do not get here on this live show. If you're on the YouTube, share it. If you're on the Facebook, share it. Brian Maloney, thanks for letting us have access to Media Equalizer. I do appreciate you. I really do. Hey, everybody, we'll be back here tomorrow morning. A couple of great guests already lined up for tomorrow. Happy birthday to my son. I no longer have a teenager in the house. That's bizarre to me. Very crazy. Hey, may God bless you. May God bless America. Thanks for stepping into the House of Lakey and listening to Lakey Unleashed. Now go subscribe. Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. I'm Jimmy.